Mate. I'm your host, Anthony Harcher. I'm the Joyful Journey Mentor, and I'm sharing my latest tips and insights around happiness. And recently, I've come across this hierarchy of happiness. So I want to share that with you today. Is my hierarchical happiness, which is the me and my happiness hierarchical. I haven't quite come up with the terminology, but I'll certainly craft that as I go along thinking about this hierarchy. You wouldn't believe what I just did. I was recording this session and, well, I thought I was recording. In actual fact, I was just talking to the phone and I wasn't recording. So I'm actually recording this time. So I've actually done this episode, but it was a practice run. So this is the real run. And I'm recording from the beautiful part of Coogee. It's in the park. It's in the northern park of Coogee. And I've got around me just lots of activity. I've got some high school girls from Bridgerdine playing volleyball and enjoying themselves. I've got some builders doing a renovation around me. I've got some birds that are talking away, and I'm just embracing some beautiful surroundings. So it's so nice to be here and doing this recording. So, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is something that I've come across just through my research and thinking about how happiness works and what needs to be in place in order for us to experience more happiness. So, we're all aware of things that can bring us temporary happiness. So, these are fleeting forms of happiness. They're like just like we go and entertain ourselves, we go and have a good night out with the mates, we go and buy something new, a new car, some shiny new object, some new technology, a new phone or something like that. So we consume things. We we could gambling. We can get into gambling and sort of have wins and highs and lows around gambling. We can take drugs and experience highs around drugs and then the come down from the drug. And so these are all fleeting forms of happiness. Like they're temporary, that they every now and then. And if we if we embrace these forms of happiness, these more temporary forms of happiness, they're generally not sustaining or sustainable. So, like, there's only, once someone starts taking drugs, soon after they become addicted, and really struggle to get off, and it controls their life, and so they become really attached to it. And same with consumerism. So people just when they feel down, they'll buy things. Same with food. Food's another one that, if people are feeling emotional, they'll buy food and eat food in order to feel better. And then you've got like other things, like whether it be porn or sex and things like that. Yeah, like people can do that as much as they want, but it's only in that moment that they feel happiness. And what my book's about is helping you find more lasting and fulfilling happiness. It's not about these temporary forms that provide temporary happiness that are very fleeting and come and go and not so healthy long term. So, this is more about helping you find that longer term, more sustainable form of happiness. And so, this pyramid is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, Maslow has a pyramid, and he has as the foundation, we need to have our survival needs met. So we need to have food, shelter, clothes, all the basic things so that we can live. And then beyond that, we transcend and we can then have a more transcendent experience or a greater contribution to the world around us by moving beyond those basic needs of survival. And happiness is the same. Like, so we have our basic fundamental needs that need to be met, and that is our survival needs. It's hard when we're just surviving or struggling to survive to be happy. We can experience temporary moments of happiness, but generally, when we're in survival mode, it's difficult. It's challenging. Although in saying this, I see it well adapted and well accepted in the developing world. And so when I've traveled throughout Asia, they live each day to meet the basic needs: food, shelter, clothing, and supporting one another. But they do because they embrace that and they see that as life, and they don't have any more expectations other than if they've got their basic needs met, then life's great. I'm satisfied and I'm fulfilled. I think it's difficult now for the developing world because they can compare their world to the first world or the developed world, and then they can, through comparison, see what they don't have. And so, I, what I predict the studies will show over time is that the developed developing world, which has typically been more happier than the developed world, is going to struggle more with finding happiness because of that comparison. And so I'm going to delve more into the comparison shortly. So we need to have those basic survival needs met. So we don't want to be in a bad relationship where we feel threatened and we don't feel safe. We need to make sure that the relationships in the home environment is a safe haven and we feel secure and we trust those around us. That's really fundamental to experiencing more happiness and uh, longer periods of happiness because we aren't running away from a predator. We aren't in that survival mode of constantly feeling, am I safe? Am I safe? Or questioning ourselves, am I safe? And whilst we're running away from a predator, it's hard to be happy. Like you don't see someone that's fighting for their life with a smile on their face. Okay. It's not not normal and certainly uncommon, very uncommon. So mostly when we're in that survival, trying to get away from the predator, is that we can't experience happiness because we're producing neurotransmitters that are all about getting us full focused, getting away from that threat, and we've got so much adrenaline going through us that we're just not thinking of anything else other than escaping the predator. So we're less likely to experience happiness when we feel threatened or fearful or anxious, and this for prolonged periods of time can make uh, for depression. Like so, we feel we get quite despondent with that sort of life because it's hard to live in an anxious state for prolonged periods of time. It ends up wearing us out, and then we get quite despondent and depressed. So we need to have that survival basic need met. And then once we can move out and transcend out of that limbic center of the brain, so our survival center of the brain is that limbic center. It's our emotional center. So it is creates emotions in order to support us and support our survival needs, to encourage us to continue to eat prey and to continue to get away from the predator. So that's how it's wired, and that's what it will continue to do. So it'll help us drive us towards what we want, which is the prey, and help us get away from what we don't want, which is the predator. Now, the prey, in this instance, if we stay in this limbic center and live our life in this limbic center, the prey can be these temporary forms of happiness, such as sugar hits, ice cream, such as chocolate, such as when we're consuming large amounts of alcohol or drugs or gambling or shopping. Those sort of things can be our go-to prey in order to escape our life, in order to make us feel better about our life that's not quite so great. So, and again, the problem with this is that it creates addictive and attachment behaviors. We become attached to these solutions, or we think are solutions to our problems, but they're not fulfilling, lasting, and not really sustainable in in a sense, because if we keep abusing our body, it's going to deteriorate, and we keep spending money and consumerism, we're going to run out of money. And so these things aren't really sustainable. They're going to catch us out and get us unstuck. So what we want to do is get out of this survival need. So we need to make sure that we're safe. We're got a safe home. We have good relations, trusting relationships. So we need to work on those basic needs first in order to experience more lasting, fulfilling happiness, forms of happiness. And so the next part of the pyramid, the happiness pyramid, is knowing thyself. So once we get those survival needs met, we need to get in touch with who we are, because we've got away from the predator. We no longer, and the prey, we've got plenty of food. So we're safe and secure. And now we can really get in touch with who we are, because we're no longer running away from something. We're no longer chasing temporary happiness in the forms of addictive behaviors. And that can be very controlling. So now, once we move out of that survival mode, we can then get into getting in touch with ourselves, connecting our mind and body, really s- be, get comfortable with sitting with ourselves and sitting with the uncomfortableness, sitting with our thoughts, and start to work through the thought patterns, the behaviors. And and if you're struggling in this area, then it's get help to do this. Seek an expert's help to really help you break these patterns, or not, or break the ability or the inability to sit with self and sit with self in silence and have reflective moments. Because once you know, we can do more of this reflective sitting with self time, what happens is that we get to know ourselves better. We really get in touch with who we are. We really understand what's most important to us. And we we most likely know what's important to us through our unconscious habits. However, we don't bring them to our conscious awareness because we're dismissive of them. We don't we don't put a value on them. Because we're comparing ourselves to someone else. We're thinking, oh, that's not important because such and such doesn't do that and they're successful. So we're we're not really acknowledging the things that we do on a daily basis that are really important to us, that fulfill us, because we're constantly comparing ourselves to someone else who we're not. So this is a real trap. This is a thief of happiness, is comparison. So we really want to stop the comparing to others. And the only comparison you want to make is about yourself and how you are going relative to what you value most. And are you doing that on a regular basis? And are you starting to say no to things that aren't aligned to what you value and that are important to you? So, what is important to you? Well, they're the things that you do automatically that no one needs to remind you to do them, that no one needs to motivate you to do them. You automatically do them. So, for example, this podcast is a great example. No one encourages me to do this. No one pays me to do this. I do it because it's important to me. It's important to me to share with others this message. It's what is fulfilling to me is helping others fulfill their voids or their perceived voids and helping them live a fulfilled life. So me sharing this knowledge with you, this wisdom with you, is fulfilling for me, knowing that you're taking this knowledge and applying it and finding yourself, discovering who you are, and starting to live a fulfilled life. And that's being the authentic you. So this is fundamental, is really knowing thyself, getting in touch with thyself, reflective journalism, like so doing reflect like spending time to reflect on what fulfilled you that day and starting to note that down, starting to write that into a journal. So what we do is we just keep so busy that we're not noticing what's filling us during the day. And are we filling our time with things that we don't value, that make us frustrated? And you'll know what those things are. Those things are things that make you irritable. So the things you do that drive irritation, or they make you procrastinate. So things that you procrastinate on aren't important to you, but the things that you spontaneously do, they're important to you. And the ones that no one needs to pay or extrinsically motivate you to do. It's intrinsic motivation are the things that are really important to you. So I'm intrinsically driven to do this podcast. I, in actual fact, recorded this podcast, well, thought I was recording this podcast. I spent 30 minutes talking to myself and then realized I hadn't hit record. So was I annoyed with myself? a bit annoyed, frustrated, but I was thinking, well, uh, hopefully I can articulate myself better the second time, and hopefully the recording is better the second time round. Maybe or maybe not. Sometimes it's great first time, but regardless, as I said, I didn't get frustrated because really want to do this. This is intrinsically important to me. So, what is it that you do on a daily basis that makes you feel present, at peace, makes you feel joyful, makes you feel energized? These are the things that you want to capture in a journal, and they'll start to define who you are. You'll start to better understand yourself. So start journaling, start reflecting on the day, start recognizing what you did that day that felt fulfilling, that was energizing, that brought presence, that you just did because it felt right. Um, and then you want to also acknowledge those things that are taking you away from what's important to you. And these are things I mentioned that are things that make you irritable, frustrated, you procrastinate on. They're the things that you want to start noting that you're not that person. And they're the things you say no to. So I've got a list of things I say no to and a list that things that align to my values that I say yes to. And I live each day based on what's most important to me. This is very important to me. As you can tell, this is episode 15 and I'm flying. Like this is like a podcast that I think I started a couple of weeks ago now. So again, you'll once you get into this sort of flow, then you know what you're doing is very fulfilling and you're intrinsically motivated to do it. So I want you to get in touch with what that is. So spend some time tonight writing it down, reflecting on your day, and acknowledging what felt in alignment with who you are and what felt disaligned or not who you are. And noting it down, and you'll develop some consciousness towards what resonates with you, what resonates with your soul, what makes your heart sing. And then you'll start realizing there's other things that make your heart break or de-energize you or deflate you. And they're the things you say no to. And that really helps define who you are. So it really helps create boundaries. So do this exercise because it's going to get you in touch with you. And then the next step on the ladder or the pyramid, maybe I call it a ladder. I'm not sure what's better, a pyramid or a ladder. Anyway, I'll work that out. That's details for later. But the next step is once you know what's important to you and what's not important to you, then it's going about every day and filling every day with what's most intrinsically important to you. And you then measure your day based on, did you do the things that are in line with who you are and live a day of who you are, the authentic you? Or were you trying to be someone else by just doing all the yes pleasing activities? So the yes pleasing or saying yes to everything and not questioning whether it's aligned to who you are, that will take you away from being your authentic self. And what you're doing is putting on a mask and pretending to be someone else and trying to fit in. And ultimately, that doesn't feel great on a regular basis. And so that disalignment and all those different personalities that you put on for different situations to fit in will ultimately take you away from who you are, your authentic self, and will take you towards these impulsive happiness because you feel unfulfilled when you're doing things that aren't aligned to who you are. And the more you do the things that aren't aligned to who you are, the more unfulfilled you'll feel. And the more you'll want to do these impulsive activities, such as drug taking, alcohol, and all that sort of stuff. So, in order to minimize that and to live a more fulfilling and more lasting happiness, what we need to do is live every day as an aligned day to who you are and be the authentic self. And the more you start doing that, the more comfortable it gets being thyself, the more you love being thyself, and the more people love being around you because you're just like you've got a magnetism about you because you're happy being who you are and you're not trying to hide or cover up anything and you're very open and trustworthy. And so people connect with that. and they can get closer to you when you're being who you are because they get to know who you are. Whereas when you're putting up masks and wearing masks and all that sort of stuff, then they're not you're putting up layers and they can't get to your heart. They can't connect with your heart and they don't feel connected with you. They feel a bit distant and they don't know how to approach you and it feels a bit uncomfortable in these conversations. But when you're who you are, people feel connected with you, even though they might not know you very well. They feel very connected. And I've probably got a good story to share is that today is the day that I decided to have a break from doing my business networking. I was a member of Business Networking International, been doing it for 7 years, and it's helped me grow personally, professionally, and just created a great support network for business and for life around me. So I've really adhered to it. I've loved doing it. And today I was saying goodbye. And it was very touching for me to say goodbye because it's been a big part of who I've been in business. So when I left corporate, I didn't really know who I was when I left corporate. And over this 8 years of doing my own business and discovering who I am, I grew with BNI. So I have a lot to be thankful for in terms of the growth it's giving me and the understanding it's given me of self and the knowledge it's given me about business and about doing well in business and about building credibility and trust. And a lot of what I do today are tips that I learned through BNI. So I was up there giving my farewell speech and I somewhat prepared it. There was some structure to it, like these episodes. But then I spoke from the heart. And I noticed the audience really connected with the heartful message. So it wasn't a scripted speech. I had a sort of a logic flow in my head, but then I allowed it to just flow as it, like, so I didn't worry about searching for the right words or anything like that. And pretty much how I do these podcasts, right? So I have some structure most of the time, sometimes not. And then I will speak and talk and just get present with what I'm saying. So I do go on tangents. So, but in finishing this story, I, I was moved emotionally, and I was up there just being who I am and spoke from the heart, and it really connected with the audience. And what I noticed afterwards was that people that I didn't even really know that well, like I'd obviously spoken to them and chatted with them, but hadn't had really any deep conversations with them, they came up to me and shared with me how moved they were from what I shared. And they felt really connected with me. And we had a hug. And for me, like when you're being yourself without saying many words or without spending much time with people, people get connected. There's no layers to go through. Their heart gets connected with your heart. And you have this deeper connection simply through being yourself. And there's no better way of living every day than being yourself and being comfortable with who you are. Because obviously it takes time. It feels uncomfortable to begin with because you're like, for me, like if I started, I started 8 years ago. So I'm 48 now. So 40 years of sort of trying to find who I am and playing around and get comfortable with who I am. There's when you step into being who you are, it can feel uncomfortable. So it's initially uncomfortable, but over time, it gets comfortable, it gets more comfortable. And the only way to make the uncomfortable comfortable is to sit in the experience and feel it. And that's what I've done. I've sat in who I am. I've shared openly who I am on my other podcast, Me and My Health Up. And I've revealed all. And initially, when I was doing these recordings, I wasn't comfortable. I was nervous. I didn't know what to say, and I hated looking at a camera. Now I'm used to looking at a camera. I spend a lot of my day doing these sort of recordings, looking at a camera. So that's become more comfortable. I feel that I've got more flow, and people tell me I'm improving, which is good because it's hard to tell myself. So that all comes through having a go and really immersing yourself and just being you. And so that's another take-home message for you, is in order to transcend up this happiness and more fulfilling and satisfying life, contentful life, we need to start living by who we are, or start being who we are. And it's no, don't apologize for who you are. Never apologize for who you are, because why should you apologize for who you are? It's what you want to be doing is respecting others for who they are, and not judging them, and realizing that they're unique and special, and realizing that you're unique and special. And if you don't judge others, others most likely not going to judge you. And I think the more you just be you and define yourself by saying no to the things that aren't important to you, that don't resonate and don't align with what you value, then you'll you'll feel more comfortable, and people will start to understand who you are and what you're not, and they won't try to make you to be someone else, because they understand that you know who you are. So it's really helpful to discover thyself, and that's the second run on the ladder. So, as I said, do the reflective journaling exercise, get to know thyself, work out, reflect on the day as to what really made your heart sing, what energized you, what spun your wheels, and keep a note of these things. And you'll find there'll be constant things that you do on a regular basis that you start bringing to your conscious awareness, that it's you, it's what you like doing, and it's very fulfilling. And once you realize that there's nothing wrong with just being you and doing what's important to you, then you'll do more of it. And you won't compare yourself to anyone else. You'll just compare yourself to the goals you set out to do and achieve that resonated with your heart. And you'll actually set better goals in this process. When you know yourself, you'll set goals in alignment with areas that are important to you. So I don't set goals in areas that aren't important to me. I only set goals in areas that are really important to me. And what it helps with is, first of all, that you know that they're meaningful goals and they're worth pursuing and they're worth putting up with the pain and taking the challenges. And so you're going to push through pain in order to achieve it, because they're really meaningful to you. And you actually take action. Like, for example, this once I got onto this subject that I really love, and digging deep in and writing a book about, I've been unstoppable. Like this, I've been looking for this for 48 years, and I've been looking at what I can share with the world that is really aligned with who I am, and and everything I know. And yeah, it's completely aligned. And it just puts a grin on my face just thinking about what I'm doing and how much I love doing this, and how it's going to be everything I do now. So expect this episode 15 to go to 15 million. I don't know how many episodes I'll be able to fit in my lifetime, but it's going to go right until my death. Yeah, so if you join me on this journey, it's going to be wonderful. This is not a podcast that's going to fold. This is it. This is what really makes my heart sing. This is what I'm writing a book about. This is what I'm going to do keynote speaking on, and I want you to find that in this journey with me. So apply what I've shared with you today, put it into practice, and let me know how you're going. Please update me. Please put in the comments under the podcast. Please connect with me. Please reach out and send me an email. My emails details are contained within wherever you're watching this recording. And let me know what your goals are and what you've learned, and give me feedback. I really want to hear from you. And this will continue to inspire me when I get your feedback, and constructive feedback. I love, like, how can I improve this? So please bring it on. I'm all about learning and growing in this space. So that's it for this episode 15. It's been a delight to do a part two of this recording. First one never happened, but I thought it did. So an hour in the making, and well, I've just enjoyed sharing so much insights with you, and hope you got a lot out of this episode. and continue to go on your happy journey until episode 16. Thank you.